Hello and welcome to Jamie's Humble Home. Today we're going to be crocheting these beautiful succulents in a hanging basket. This makes a lovely gift. It's a good project for an advanced beginner or intermediate crocheter. It's quite simple to make and it works up in just a few hours. I have the PDF pattern available in my Stan store. It's linked down below, available for instant download if you would like to work this up with a printed pattern. And the supplies that you're going to be needing for this project are number 4 medium weight yarns in the following colors. You're going to need it in white or cream for your basket, dark green for your cactus, and a brown or tan color for your dirt or sand, as well as in sage green for your lily pad succulent. You're also going to need some number 1 lightweight yarn in either a pink, red, yellow, or purple for your cactus flower, and in a light green for your string of pearls, succulent, and your little cactus prickles. You're also going to be needing some scissors, a tapestry needle, and number 4 and 3mm crochet hooks. And optionally, you'll need a 2-inch wooden ring, and you might want to have a stitch marker handy. Alright, so we're going to begin by making the basket. So using your 4mm crochet hook, you're going to make a magic ring and work 7 single crochet into your magic ring. Once you've worked 7 single crochet into your magic ring, go ahead and pull that tight and then slip stitch to close your round. For round 2, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do an increase in every stitch. So you're going to work 2 single crochets into every stitch around, and you will end this round with 14 single crochets. Go ahead and slip stitch to close round 2. And for round 3, chain 1. And you're going to begin with an increase, working 2 single crochets into that first stitch, followed by 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And you're going to repeat that 7 times around, doing an increase into 1 stitch, followed by 1 single crochet into the next stitch, all the way around. And then you'll slip stitch to close round 3. And for round 4, chain 1, and you'll begin with an increase, working 2 single crochets into that first stitch, followed by 2 single crochets. And you're going to repeat that 7 times around, ending round 4 with 28 stitches. So you'll simply do an increase, working 2 single crochets into 1 stitch, followed by 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches, and repeat that all the way around. And then you'll slip stitch to close your round. And for round 5, chain 1, begin with an increase, working 2 single crochets into that first stitch, followed by 3 single crochets, and you're going to repeat this 7 times around, ending round 5 with 35 stitches. Slip stitch to close your round. And for round 6, you're going to chain 1, begin with an increase, working 2 single crochets into that first stitch, followed by 4 single crochets. You're going to repeat that 7 times around, and you will end round 6 with 42 stitches. Slip stitch to close your round. And for round 7, chain 1, begin with an increase, followed by 5 single crochets. You're going to repeat this 7 times around, ending round 7 with 49 stitches. Slip stitch to close the round. And for round 8, chain 1, begin with an increase, working 2 single crochets into that first stitch, followed by 6 single crochets. And you're going to repeat this 7 times around, ending round 8 with 56 stitches. slip stitch to close your round. And for round 9, chain 1, and we're going to be working into the back loop only for round 9. And so right back into that very first stitch that you slip stitched into the back loop only, work a single crochet, and then you'll be working 1 single crochet into the back loop only of every stitch around for round 9. Slip stitch to close your round. And for rounds 10 through 15, you'll be chaining 1 and working 1 single crochet into every stitch around. So that'll be 56 single crochets, and you will slip stitch to close at the end of each round. So for rounds 10 through 15, just put 1 stitch into every stitch around. Once you get to the end of round 15, slip stitch to close your round. And for round 16, chain 1 and work a half double crochet back into that same stitch, and then chain 1 and skip 1 stitch and work a half double crochet into the next stitch. And that's what you're going to repeat all the way around. So you work a half double crochet into 1 stitch, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and then work a half double crochet into the next stitch. And just repeat that all the way around. Don't forget to chain 1 at the end of your very last half double crochet before you slip stitch to close your round. And for round 17, chain 1, and you're going to be working 6 single crochet followed by a decrease. You're going to repeat that 7 times around, and you will end round 17 with 49 stitches. So whenever you get to a chain 1 space, you're simply going to work your stitch into the chain 1 space, not into the chain, and you just work 6 single crochets in a row before you will single crochet 2 stitches together and do a decrease. So just repeat that all the way around for round 17. 6 single crochet followed by a decrease all the way around.
So we'll go through above our half double crochet, pull up a loop, and then go directly into our chain 1 space, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 to single crochet 2 together and do a decrease.
And then you'll slip stitch to close the round. For round 18, we want to skip just 1 stitch so that we have an even number of stitches between when we add our straps at the end. Right now we have 49 stitches and we want to get down to 48. So rather than doing our first stitch into our very first stitch, we're going to skip that stitch and work our first single crochet into the following stitch. We're going to be doing twisted single crochets for this final round. So you will work a single crochet as you typically would, pull up a loop, just pull it up a little extra long, and then twist your work or twist your hook, and then complete your single crochet. So you'll pull up a little bit of a longer loop. I like to turn my work, but you can turn your hook, and then finish your single crochet, and you will just put 1 single crochet that is twisted into every stitch around for this finishing round. And once you work all the way around, then you can go ahead and slip stitch to close your round. So once you've worked all the way around, go ahead and slip stitch to close your round. You're not going to fasten off right here. We're going to go ahead and start working up our strap. So go ahead and chain 51, and you're going to chain 51 if you're going to be using a wooden ring or a ring to hang your hanging basket, or chain 101 if you're going to be tying your straps together at the top to make a loop, then chain 101. After you've chained 51, we are going to slip stitch to our wooden ring. So we're just going to pull up a loop through our wooden ring and slip stitch into the loop that is on our hook, and then I'm going to slip stitch a second time back around the other end, around the back side, pull up another loop around the ring and slip stitch that through. And then I'm going to repeat that one more time just to get this nice and secure on the ring, a third time, and to get back to my original side, pull up a loop back to that original side and slip stitch through. Then we will begin to slip stitch back down our chain, back down to the basket. So go ahead and work 50 slip stitches back down to your basket after you've slip stitched your ring into place. When you get back to the basket, you'll just go ahead and slip stitch back onto the basket and then fasten off. So there we have our first strap all completed. I'm just going to cut my yarn and we can begin to make our second strap. So with 48 stitches, we are going to be placing our straps 16 stitches apart. So you're going to want to count 15 stitches in between each of your straps. So you'll make a slip knot and then you'll attach the second strap into the 16th stitch from your first strap. So just count 15 stitches over and then into the 16th stitch, insert your hook and pull through that slip knot, and then pull up a loop and chain one, and then go ahead and repeat the steps that you did for your first strap, chain 51, and repeat those same steps. After you chain 51, you will slip stitch to your ring 3 times, and then slip stitch your way back down to the basket, and place your third strap another 15 stitches apart so they are all centered together. Once you have all your straps into place, I just like to twist some yarn around the top just to kind of hold them. It looks nice at the top and it just holds the straps in place so they're not getting twisted and everything. And so I go about 5 stitches down. I just counted about 5 stitches down and inserted my hook into one of the stitches just so that I could go ahead and pull up a loop of yarn and secure this into place. And I'm just going to start twisting this around. So I pull it so that my tail is kind of short, and then I'm going to wrap my tail around first, the little tail I have, and then I'm going to hold that into place, and I'm going to wrap the yarn over that tail just to secure that into place so that I don't have to weave it in or anything at the end. I'm just going to weave it in right now. So just kind of hold that little tail into place and start winding your yarn right over it, and then simply twist up around all of your straps as much as you want. Cut the yarn to where you have a little bit of a tail hanging, and we are going to weave this in so that it doesn't come loose. So I'm just going to go ahead and attach my tapestry needle here. And then I'm just going to kind of sew through the center and weave in this little yarn end so it doesn't come loose. So just cut any remaining tail so that it looks nice, and all you have to do is weave in the ends that you have down on your straps and in the bottom of your basket. And once you've weaved in all of your ends, then you'll be all finished. Now we're going to work on the cactus. For the cactus, you're going to be using some dark green number 4 medium weight yarn and your 4mm hook. Go ahead and make a slip knot and chain 21. For row 1, you're going to be doing 20 single crochet. Just do 1 single crochet into each of your chains, and you will begin from the first chain from the loop on your hook. 20 single crochets across, and for rows 2 through 15, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and then do 20 single crochets into the back loops only, all the way across. So just do 1 single crochet into every stitch across, working into the back loop only. And when you get to the end of your row, you will chain 1 and turn, and do a single crochet into the back loop only up to row 15. At the end of row 15, you're simply going to slip stitch this together and make it into a round for our cactus. And I am just slip stitching through the front loop of the side that I am working from, and then into my chain of the original side. And just slip stitching each stitch together, working my way to sew my way down my cactus. Once you get to the other end, go ahead and make a slip knot and fasten off. Leave a little bit of a tail here so that you can sew this into the soil when we get to that part. I'm just going to go ahead and weave the top end of the cactus closed. So you'll just use your tapestry needle and weave your yarn kind of just through the top of each row. And once you get through the top of each row, then you can pull your yarn tight and pull that tight closed, kind of like you do with a magic ring. And now we're going to work on the flowers. And for our flowers, I'm going to make 3 of them. Leave a tail so that you can sew it to the cactus when you're finished. Make a slip knot and chain 12. So we're going to be doing a row of double crochets here. We're going to do 10 increases. And so into the 3rd chain from your hook, work your first double crochet, followed by a second double crochet into that chain, and then work 2 double crochets into every loop across your chain. We're going to do 10 increases. You'll end with 20 double crochets. And when you get to the end, after you have done 10 increases, working 2 double crochets into each of your little chain loops, then you can go ahead and fasten off and leave a little bit of a tail, because we're going to use that tail to sew the bottom of our flower together. And so just go ahead and thread in that tail and start kind of twisting your little flower on the bottom, and you will just sew 1 little stitch at a time, sewing across to sew your flower together into a little curl so that it swirls and rolls on itself. And just sew through the bottom 1 stitch at a time until you get it all rolled up into a little flower. And then take the other end that's hanging out the top here, and I am simply just going to use my tapestry needle to thread that straight down through the middle, and then we will leave both of those hanging because we're going to use those to tie the flower onto the cactus. And so you'll just repeat those same steps for however many number of flowers you want. So I'm just getting my tail from my cactus down into the center and out of my way. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew my flowers on. I go ahead and sew on a few stitches, and then I just thread the tail of the yarn right down into the center of the cactus and thread the other tail of the yarn down into the center of the cactus. Ended up tying those tails together. and just tucking them in so that they would get covered up when I added in my stuffing. So you'll just stuff your cactus, don't overstuff it, and then we're going to make the quills. So I just wound my light green #1 lightweight yarn around my hand multiple times, a dozen or so times, and then I just cut on each side. So you just want to make a lot of little, I'd say about 2-inch little strips of yarn. You don't want them too short. We're going to end up actually trimming them, but you don't want them too short because they just become very difficult to work with. And 2 inches for me was kind of pushing it. So then you'll just use your hook, and on each of the edges and the little ridges of your cactus, you're just going to insert your hook through a stitch, pull up a loop of the light green yarn, and it's kind of like the latch hook kits that we had when we were kids. You'll just reach through, grab the other 2 little tails, pull those through your loop, and then pull it tight. It's kind of like those little latch hook blanket things that I used to make when I was little. I wish I still had my little latch hook. Make it a little easier to pull those strings through. And once you get down a whole row, I went about every other stitch. Sometimes I skipped a couple stitches. And once you get down a whole ridge there, then you can trim them all to the length that you like and get them all kind of even. And then you're just going to repeat that all the way around, placing your little cactus quills. And then we'll just set that aside so that we can start on our pearls. So for the string of pearls, we're going to use the light green #1 lightweight yarn and a 3mm crochet hook. You're going to begin by making a slip knot, and then chain 2, yarn over, and into the first chain, go ahead and pull up a loop 4 times on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all of the loops on your hook after you've pulled through 4 times, and we're going to make a little puff stitch. So you'll yarn over and pull up a loop 4 times. Once you have done that 4 times, yarn over, pull through all the loops on your hook, and then chain 2 and begin working another puff stitch directly on top of your first puff stitch. So yarn over and pull up a loop 4 times, and then yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook, chain 1 to close, and then we are going to slip stitch these 2 puffs together. I like to slip stitch into the top of my chain 2. It's a little more tricky to kind of get my hook in there sometimes, but rather than going into the big gap that's left at the top, it just makes for a tighter purl. So go ahead and slip stitch your 2 puff stitches together, and we have our first little purl for our succulent. And then you're going to chain 3, and you're going to repeat the process. So down into the second chain from your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. You're going to yarn over 4 times, pull up 4 loops to make a puff stitch. After you've pulled up 4 loops, then yarn over, pull through all loops on your hook, chain 2, and you will begin to work another puff stitch directly into the top of that first puff stitch. Then yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook after you've pulled through 4 times, and then slip stitch those 2 puff stitches together to make your purl. And then you can chain 3 and repeat. I like to vary the distance between my purls, so sometimes I chain 3 and I will make lots of little clusters of them. Other times I chain 5, spread them apart a little bit more. Sometimes I'll even chain 13 or 16, just kind of depends how far apart I want my purls, and I cluster some together and spread some further apart. So you'll just work up your chain of purls, and then once you get to the end where it'll attach to the soil, then you're going to want to chain about 10 to 12, because we're going to tie a knot when we secure these on. So chain about 10 and then fasten off and leave a little strand there. Once I had all my strings of pearls done, I just went ahead and weaved in the end that's going to be hanging down the plant. Just real simple. Just weaved it through a pearl or two and then cut my end. I made 5 strands for my strings of pearls. Some I made short, some I made long. You can work up as many or as few as you like. And now for the lily pad. You're going to be using a 4mm hook and the number 4 medium weight green yarn. I have kind of a sage green yarn here. Go ahead and make a slip knot and chain 33. Yarn over and into the 3rd chain from your hook. You're going to be working all of the following stitches. You're going to do a half double crochet, a double crochet, a treble crochet, and then on the top of your treble crochet you're going to be working a 2-stitch picot stitch, so chain 2 and then slip stitch right down into the top of that treble crochet to close the picot stitch, and then work a double crochet and a half double crochet all into that same stitch, and then into the next stitch work a single crochet. Into the following stitch you're going to repeat what you just did. You're going to work a half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, a 2-stitch picot stitch followed by a double crochet and a half double crochet. So every treble crochet gets a 2-stitch picot stitch at the top, and then you'll complete your petal with a double crochet and a half double crochet. And then into the next stitch is a single crochet. You're going to repeat this 3 more times, so you have a total of 5 petals with treble crochets in the middle. And then you're going to do a half double crochet, a double crochet, another double crochet. In that double crochet, your second one will have the 2-stitch picot on the top. And so you'll chain 2, slip stitch right back into the top of that double crochet to close your picot stitch, and then do another double crochet and a half double crochet. And you're going to repeat this 5 times. So you'll do your clusters in 1 stitch followed by a single crochet, and after that 5th cluster then you are simply just going to do a slip stitch instead of a single crochet, and we will work to our smaller center petals. So after the slip stitch then you're going to do a single crochet into the next stitch, and all into this stitch, the single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet with a picot stitch on the top, the 2-stitch picot stitch. So chain 2 and then slip stitch into the top of that double crochet to close your picot, followed by a half double crochet and a single crochet. And you're going to repeat that 3 times. You will slip stitch afterwards and then all into the same stitch, do a single crochet, half double crochet with a picot, half double crochet, single crochet, and then slip stitch. And for our last few, we're going to do a single crochet, half double crochet with a picot on the top, a 2-stitch picot, slip stitch on the top of that half double crochet to close your picot, followed by a single crochet. You're going to repeat that 3 times. Slip stitch into 1 stitch, and then into the next stitch, do a single crochet, half double crochet, picot stitch on the top of the half double crochet, followed by another half double crochet and a single crochet. Repeat that 3 times and you should be at the end of your succulent. And after that very last cluster for the little petal, then you will go ahead and fasten off, and we will begin to sew our succulent together. Using a tapestry needle, you're just going to insert your needle a few stitches into the bottom of the row and then begin to sew stitch by stitch as you roll your succulent up. So I stick it in a few stitches and then I went back into the first stitch to snag it up again and began to just roll my succulent. You want to begin on the end that you've fastened off with. This is where our smallest petals are, and we're working these in the center. And then you just want to get to the bottom of your succulent and slowly stitch all the way around. You'll just kind of go loop by loop, stitch by stitch, and roll your petals onto themselves, shaping your succulent as you go, as you stitch. You can see how I'm stitching through kind of just each of the petal sets on the bottom. I don't bother stitching through any of my single crochet or slip stitches, just into the center of those petal clusters, just working a stitch through each one to secure them across and secure the succulent to itself, turn it into a nice little plant. Once you've sewn all the way around and gotten all your petals secured, I just like to go across a couple times on the bottom and then get my little strand to the center, and then I go ahead and use my tapestry needle to get the other end just pulled straight down through the center into the bottom, so I can use that when we sew it into the soil and to tie it onto the soil in the end. And that's what we're ready to do now, is to make our soil. Using a 4mm hook and the number 4 medium weight yarn in brown or tan, I went with kind of a tan so that it looks more like sand. You're going to make a magic ring and then work 7 single crochet into your magic ring. Once you have your 7 single crochet in your magic ring, go ahead and pull that tight and then slip stitch to close the round. For round 2, you're going to chain 1, and we're going to work 7 increases. So into every stitch, you're going to do 2 single crochets into every stitch around, and you'll finish round 2 with 14 stitches. Slip stitch to close your round. And for round 3, chain 1 and begin with an increase, working 2 single crochets into that first stitch, followed by 1 single crochet into the next stitch. You're going to repeat that 7 times around, and you will end round 3 with 21 stitches, doing an increase followed by a single crochet all the way around. Slip stitch to close your round. For round 4, chain 1, and you're going to do an increase, working 2 single crochets into that first stitch, followed by 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches, and you're going to repeat that 7 times around, ending round 4 with 28 stitches. So do an increase, followed by 2 single crochet all the way around. Slip stitch to close your round. And for round 5, you're going to chain 1, and you're going to begin with an increase, working 2 single crochets into that very first stitch, followed by 3 single crochets. So 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches, and you're going to repeat that all the way around, ending this round with 35 stitches. Slip stitch to close your round. And for round 6, you're going to chain 1, and you'll begin with an increase, working 2 single crochets into that very first stitch, followed by 4 single crochet. So you'll do an increase, followed by 4 single crochet, working 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. You'll repeat that 7 times around, ending round 6 with 42 stitches. Then slip stitch to close your round. For round 7, chain 1, begin with an increase, followed by 5 single crochet. So you'll work 2 single crochet into that very first stitch, followed by 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches. You're going to repeat that 7 times around, doing an increase followed by 5 single crochet. You'll end round 7 with 49 stitches. Slip stitch to close your round. Now for rounds 8 through 13, you're just going to do 49 single crochet. You'll chain 1 at the beginning of each round, do 1 single crochet into every stitch around, and then slip stitch at the end of each round, and work up rounds 8 through round 13. At the end of round 13, go ahead and fasten off. And we're going to go ahead and weave in our ends for the bottom of our soil. Once you've weaved in your ends, you're going to repeat rounds 1 through 7 for the soil top. Don't fasten off when you're finished. Just go ahead and repeat rounds 1 through 7 to make the soil top. And then I like to place a stitch marker into my loop. We're going to leave our soil top and get our succulents all put together. So now it's time for the assembly. So I'm going to go ahead, before I attach my succulents, you just want to weave in your center tail on the soil top that you have. And we're going to begin by sewing our cactus to the soil top. We begin at round 6, kind of near the edge, and then sew all around your cactus, working, kind of towards the center. So this cactus is secured off center, near the side. One end of him goes almost to the end, and the other end goes pretty much right to the center. Once you've worked your way all the way around, then I just kind of weave through on the bottom, and you can leave it hanging underneath because it'll just get stuffed into the soil. After you have your cactus secured, we're going to secure our lily pad succulent. I don't even know how to say the first word of it. And we are going to sew this right up against the base of the cactus. So I just kind of sew right up against the base, and really kind of even right up into the cactus. Just into that row of stitches into the soil, right up against the cactus, so it just kind of sits right up against there. You can really sew these on wherever you want. This is just where I've liked to place them. So I just sew it on a few times, and then I take both of those ends and tie them together on the bottom just for some extra securement. For the string of pearls, you're going to use your crochet hook to pull the tail end of the string of pearls through any stitch that's in the open area of your soil top, and then you'll tie a little knot on the bottom. And I just kind of tie a knot to secure that in, and then pull through a second succulent. You can, this first one here, I've used my tapestry needle and kind of sewed around a little bit to secure it a little more, but you can also just pull through another string of pearls, tie a knot, secure that one on, and then once you have a couple of them, then just tie both of those strands together, and that just gives it some extra securement. So you're just going to repeat that for all your strings of pearls and get all of those tied on and secured. And you can place them wherever you want. I just have them scattered around in my open area of the soil. And then we're going to slip stitch our soil to the bottom of the soil. So go ahead and place your hook right back through that loop, and working one stitch at a time, I am working through the back loops only of the soil top and the soil bottom. Working into the back loops only. Just go ahead and slip stitch all the way around. When you've almost finished working your way around, go ahead and stuff it. And then finish slip stitching your soil closed. And there you have it. You're all finished. I have made this so that the soil can be taken out of the basket and put into the basket, because I am going to be making some interchangeable plants and pots. So stay tuned, subscribe for more. Please do tag me on Instagram with your finished photos. If you're on Instagram, thank you so much for crocheting with me today. Happy crocheting. God bless you, my friends. Have a fabulous day.